Hi, my name is Mike. I am one of the in-house consultants here at The Profs, and in today's video, I get to talk about a course I never thought I would ever talk about. It's King's College London's BSc in Artificial Intelligence. If you are an aspiring software engineer or computer scientist that really sees artificial intelligence and machine learning as being the way of the future, and this is indeed the course for you, then please listen to these tips as to how to get in. I promise you, you're not going to regret it. So my very first tip is make sure you understand the academic grade requirements with this. And bearing in mind it's a new course, this does come, I think, with a little bit of a caveat. Now, they tend to say with a course like this, you want an A star, an A, and an A, with the A star being in something like computer science. It sometimes lowers down to an AAB if you have an admissions test with that as well that might not be included on their course. But my caveat is this: it is a new course. New courses at universities tend to have more competition, particularly if it is London-based or if it is a Russell Group university. So I would be saying, not only do you want to be aiming for top grades, you want to be aiming to be the best all-rounder student at your school as much as you possibly can. So what would that involve? That might be involving going to your teacher a lot more often just to be able to say, are there any additional projects that I can get involved with? Are there any sort of like clubs that I can run? Are there any competitions I can take part in? Or any talks that I can go to in order to really sort of upscale my understanding of the subject there? And I mean, on top of that, the EBQ is a really, really good opportunity as well to be able to build on this. So I know a few people that have looked into developing phone apps, for instance, in computer science to be able to make this happen. But remember that this is an artificial intelligence course. So they're going to be looking specifically at your understanding of artificial intelligence and your pursuit of artificial intelligence and your understanding of it through your studies. So make sure you know what it actually means and you know how that differs with things like machine learning, so other buzz terms that you might hear in the media. And you can also see where that comes into play with a computer science A-level and where there might actually be sort of connections to something like artificial intelligence that you can make outside of your studies. So remember, it's a new course. It's already got high grades. Make sure that you're doing as much as you possibly can to boost your academic understanding of what it actually is. In that regard, we're going to really push this point home. You really want to make sure that you do understand your subject. So what can you be doing? Well, you could be looking into reading lists from other universities. I know it's not necessarily King's in this case, but Oxford and Cambridge, they have a really detailed reading list for computer science. And they have a lot of books that give really good sort of reading material on artificial intelligence. Not only do you want to be doing programs, or like you don't necessarily just want to be working on projects in particular with artificial intelligence, but you want to read about it. You need to be reading about the latest endeavors in artificial intelligence. And if you have a particular industry in mind, how has artificial intelligence helped that industry? I know you're going to be possibly thinking to myself, it's too early for me to be thinking about what I want to do after my degree. But if you have an idea already, which I highly recommend that you start thinking about, even if it's not something that you commit to, you want to be thinking, how does that connect with a degree in artificial intelligence? Why specifically that and not a computer science degree, right? So you want to be, thinking about these questions as early as possible. Maybe talk to your teacher, maybe talk to somebody like myself, like a tutor, to get these ideas. Brainstorm a few ideas, get a plan in place, make sure that you become an expert or as much of an expert as you can within your field before you apply to really actually get into the subject to a depth that you can never really imagined at this point. So over preparation is the best preparation for a degree like this. Now, my next point is going to be quite an obvious one. If you are looking at applying for a university, you've got to make sure that your application obviously fits the needs and requirements of what the university is looking for, whatever course that is. For artificial intelligence, then, you've got to be writing in a way that is technical. You've got to be detailing the programming languages that you use. But not only that, you've got to be talking about where you've used them and for what purpose. You've got to be using the right jargon. You can't necessarily be talking too colloquially or informally when it comes to your engagement with something like artificial intelligence or machine learning. So we can't necessarily say, for instance, I used a computer program in order to be able to predict what the weather is going to be over like the next week. You might have to say instead, I incorporated the use of a convolutional neural network using images of weather patterns over this particular geographical region in order to ascertain strong predictions of what I think the weather is going to be over the next 7-day period. That is a completely different way of describing something, although it's the same fact. The second one sounds a little bit more impressive. So don't shy away from the details. If you're worried that it's a bit too long when you're writing these things, you can cut down the amount of information that you are giving or the words that you're giving. But you've got to make sure that you're sounding like a scientist, or you're sounding like you're somebody working in artificial intelligence or machine learning already, for me to believe that that is where your future lies. And bear in mind as well, the personal statement structure is different this year to other years. So we're not looking at a whole essay anymore. We're looking at 3 mini essays. And one of them is literally asking, one of those questions is literally asking for additional information that you can provide. So I would say in a question like that, you want to be talking about projects you worked on, reading that you've engaged with, competitions that you've taken part in. So don't hold back on the details until absolutely necessary. Write everything that you need to write, and then make sure that once you've done so, you can then check whether it's within the character count and make it sound like a really, really strong application. Moving forward with that, you also want to make sure that when you are applying for a university like this, that you've got references to back up your strengths here. So you are probably, if you are a student already in this position, by the time that we're recording this video, you may already be discussing with your teachers why you want to go into a degree that you've chosen to do, or what your strengths are in particular subjects, what you've done in terms of supercurriculars. You're now having to justify that to your teachers. Your teachers are your best sources of objective information when it comes to your strength and capabilities going into a university other than your UCAS exams. So you've got to make sure that you have a very, very good relationship with them. Make sure that you are constantly communicating what you think you are doing well in, what are your motivations, what are your particular passions. They really want to get into the meat of what makes you you. And the only way that that can happen is if you're willing to sort of impart information about yourself to them. So don't hold back. Make sure there is a little bit of back and forth in terms of what they write about you as well. And if you do that, you'll make sure that you have very good references when applying to a degree like this. And my final tip is more of a suggestion than anything else. I wouldn't say it's something you have to do, but you certainly have an edge if you do this. Internships. There is no better way of showing that you can work with artificial intelligence or machine learning in the outside world than working with a company actually who needs basically people like you who are interested in artificial intelligence to help them with their business. Now, advertisements for internships like these tend to come about early in the year or early in the academic year, or sometimes they come about early in the second term. So you've got to make sure that you keep your eyes peeled, really, really do your research on Google and online with very different websites, what is available. If you don't want to do an in-person one, you could always do a virtual internship a little bit more immediately, and just to be able to get experience of how maybe machine learning sort of incorporates into a company. You can also do summer research opportunities as well. You might be able to get a name in a paper if you do well enough, which, what a great way of standing out against the crowd, having a research paper to your name before going to university. And there are lots of different research opportunities that are available, but they also tend to be advertised very, very early in September, in October. I would be looking at this already if you are just about to get into year 12, year 13, obviously at this point you'll be trying to focus on entering in summer schools, getting all of your material together before you make that application to King's in January. But make sure you are always looking out for opportunities to better your skills. Don't ever think to yourself, I've done enough, because for a new course like this, you can't play it too safe. And actually, if you're in that position, then always feel free as well to reach out to a tutor like myself in order to get the best expertise to know what to do next. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section below. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear some discussions from you. Otherwise, if you think that this video is going to be useful for your friends or family, please share it. If you've liked it, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to get in touch with a tutor like me or any one of our subject experts on this, then please have a look at the information on screen and make sure you get in contact. And as always, best of luck with your application.